Hi everyone, I'm super excited to host Stevan Lukic, founder of Civil's AI. And if you haven't checked out his amazing content on LinkedIn and YouTube, pause this video and first check it out because he's been doing an incredible job on making AI accessible in our industry. So thanks a lot, Stevan, for being on my show.
Thanks for the invite, Mayur. Likewise, in terms of respect for all of the things you've been doing, all the educational content you've been posting. I love it.
Appreciate your kind words. So, Stevan, for people who don't know about you, right from college graduation till date, what would be your three career highlights?
Okay, so I started working in the UK, moved out to Singapore. So I worked both in like Europe and then I worked out here in Asia. I moved out just before COVID. So in terms of the timing, it wasn't amazing to go and like do my overseas career placement right when COVID was starting. But I went to work out for Arup. So here in Singapore, I was working for Arup on tunneling projects. And for me, that was like a major career highlight because before that, I wasn't so interested in automation, but then working with like some amazing people on the projects in Singapore took a real interest in automation. So that was probably number one highlight, working for Arup on tunneling projects in Singapore. And then that kind of inspired me. At the time, I had a few friends who were going into like AI startups and becoming like tech startup entrepreneurs, not in construction, in other fields. And they were going into like kind of vision intelligence, AI, and it inspired me. Like I realized that I can start using some of this technology to automate some of the stuff I was spending a lot of time on. And so I enrolled on some programming courses like CS50, like the Harvard VSI free open source one, enrolled on that and spent about 2 years learning programming. So I guess second career highlight was learning a bit about programming. And then I guess third career highlight would be like leaving my corporate job, although it is at the time terrifying and quite scary, going and enrolling in a startup incubator where it was a bit like The Apprentice, if you've seen that show before,
Mhm.
where this one's called Antler, where they have different founders from around the world, some people who are specialized in development, like building software, and some people from the industry. And then I joined that program like with no promises of anything. And then by the end of it, I had some investment from them and I'd met my two co-founders as well. So perhaps the third highlight was, yeah, taking a bit of a risk and starting Civil's AI.
And like super respect and admire, like I've seen like AC techies and people from our domain learning programming and get super excited to build products for our industry, and it's amazing journey you have. I was wondering, when was the first seed of Civil's AI was born, or was it this version? Did you had pivots? Can you walk us through the early days?
Yeah, sure. So at the time, I was very new to the whole concept of AI and automation. And I just wanted at the time to build something which I was in the ICE, the Institute of Civil Engineers in London. I was just back in the UK for a bit. And then I looked at all the books inside the library there and I said, like, why is all that information inside of books and like not inside something that like understands all of that, like can synthesize all the information? At the time, I had no idea what a large language model was. That's kind of like the concept of how that works. But yeah, I thought to myself, like, why haven't we built something that can help us with answering all these questions in construction and telling us how to like build things and finding risks and problems? And that was like the very early idea, but I had no concept of how I would build it or how we'd solve that problem. So we started with something slightly different in terms of automation, like what we were building, and we've since like evolved the company into something that it is today.
Amazing. Can you share what Civil's AI does and what kind of customer it benefits?
Yeah, sure. So we are building so for construction, we have a lot of long-winded, like repetitive processes that we need to do in terms of paperwork and checking and reviews. And what we're building is a way in which you can simply automate that without needing to learn like programming languages. You can do it with natural language and with prompting and like stringing together with like no code workflows to automate these different tasks. So you don't need to spend 2 years learning like Python alongside all of your pressures in your day job. You can do it with natural language and visual programming. So this is like the mission of what we're building with Civil's AI. We first started with actually something that I spent a lot of time doing, which was reading information from these borehole logs, which is like sheets of PDF sheets which have like information on what's under the ground, all the layers. And so we built a vision intelligence model which can like identify all the structure of that complex document and then turn it into data. We'd feed it into like GIS and modeling software. and they just add the PDFs. And then what we wanted to do was take that like general system and then like apply it to lots of other types of reviews and checks that get done on projects. Check drawings, for example. You need to like review contracts, like to try and find if there's any legal issues, reviewing like tender specifications and bidding. So there's all these tasks where you need to like review the background information and do checks. So yeah, so our target customer is consultants who do a lot of this type of check and pre-construction team.
Interesting. And would you like to show how the platform works?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll just share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to reveal some of the new features we've also released very recently. And this is kind of the first time I'd be really sharing them publicly. Let's see how this goes. So when you log into Civils AI, you'll see on the left here, you have projects and you have libraries. So projects, this is a specific project you're working on. For example, this pipeline project or a highways project. Libraries are like groups of documents where so for example, building codes, standard contracts. So this is a set of different documents which you can use across projects. So what we've built is like an engine for like an RAG, retrieval augmented generation engine for searching through this information. So I can say, for example, what is the fire alarm call point height? So this is a fire code for Singapore. And it then is going to like search through this information and like quite quickly take us to the answer. So this is like a general sort of quite fast and powerful RAG engine that we built for searching through PDFs. So you can upload your own PDFs and we'll like extract that text. So we built this a while ago, but then we started to think to ourselves, like, how do we apply this in terms of actual workflows people have? So if you open up a project, you have a similar search bar up here, and you can organize and upload your own documents into different categories like specs, contracts, site investigations, drawings as well. So we can read drawing information. And yeah, you can upload those like however you wish, like you upload the PDFs in here. The thing we've been working on for the past 6 months or so is more around these workflows. So the concept here is on a project, you don't just like need to search something, you need to sort of tie it together in a process when you're like reviewing a document, for example. So for these different tasks, we've grouped them together into bidding, site investigation. Also, you can create some of your own custom tasks as well. So all of this is customizable. For example, let's look at like a contract risk assessment. So what you can do here is you open up this workflow view where you can string together prompts in this visual programming language style, where you basically say what type of first you need to sort of say where your inputs are coming from. So I can select some documents in here. Let's say I want to select some contracts. So I can select these two, like I can make sure I'm selecting the one I actually want here, and then click confirm. And then this will be searching these documents for these different headings. So for example, change events, delays, liquidated damages, all of this. And then you'll give it a task. So in this case, I want a simple summary, like in plain English, of what this provision is about. And then also, do these provisions follow the best practices? Score it out of 10. So like industry best practices. And then I can give this file an output, this file name. So I can say like contract review. And then that will write into Excel and Word. And then all I have to do is click here, run. And you'll see the system will start processing and these will start turning green as it's like completing this task. And it'll run. So it can take between like 20 seconds for something like this to run. And you can make it more complicated if you want and generate other types of reports or documents. So I can then click view outputs. So if I click this button here, it'll take me to my outputs page where I've run these different types of prompts together. And in this case, you can see for change events, it's scored like 9 out of 10 for standardness, saying like what the strengths are, perhaps some areas which it's not so strong, where it could be potentially a bit more favorable for the contractor or consultant. And then it explains it in plain English here as well, what it really means. So in terms of like the different requirements here relating to change events. Likewise, for all of these different categories, I can sort of run through those, and we've created these different sections in here. I can then download this as like an Excel or a Word document. So you can use this to draft documents or draft Excel files. So this is a very quick run through of what we're doing, but the concept here is we're creating these libraries which you can also customize and like build your own workflows in the future, like maybe reading in from like Autodesk Construction Cloud and different like places where information's stored, and then building these workflows in different ways for helping to check and do even project management and generating reports and Excel files. It's very fast to run through.
Steven, this is the best advanced RAG application for AEC I've seen till date. Kudos on I'm not only on the technical side, but the UI UX, the whole experience. Like amazing job. Like because I also know like making POC is one thing, but making it a production worthy is like 10x or 100x more difficult, and the way you have like approach the whole problem, it's amazing. So
Thank you, Mayur.
yeah.
I really appreciate your kind
And
words.
I was curious, so for drawing specific, it's more challenging because there could be one detail or more details within a drawing. So how do you address those kind of retrieval?
Yeah, so basically the way in which we need to do that is have different pipelines for the way we extract information. So for example, specifications, contracts, you could say these are mainly text documents. Drawings, however, you have a lot more complicated information on there. So if I take us to like, let's say a different project here and have a look at a couple of the drawings. So the concept here is that, you have a lot more information on these drawings, which needs to be understood and extracted. So when someone uploads a drawing on Civils AI, we put it through a different process, and we use more like vision intelligence models to like understand and read off this information and structure it. So notes is quite an easy one to understand because it's mainly text. So long as you can get the notes box and this different metadata. The challenge for us at the moment that we're trying to improve is how we read off dimensions and group those to objects or to elements. So this is something we're working on now for object recognition and like grouping all of the dimensions onto a certain label associated with that, and then structuring that back into like an overall schema or an overall structure for what the drawing represents. I think, honestly speaking, though, there's only so far you can really go with this, and we're a bit more interested in looking more into like IFC and BIM once we've taken this as far as we can.
Yeah. Because it's a very, very difficult task. Like sometimes people like just upload a drawing on ChatGPT and ask question, it answers. But it could be just doing like OCR and just like, okay, found this dimension and stuff. But could be misassociating with other detail, or like there's so many things that could go wrong with the hierarchy or the schema. It's amazing. I think these are the type of things where like we need domain specific workflows and processes. It's not just like OpenAI would work on this kind of custom embedding a custom visual intelligence model, and the IPs like definitely there here.
One of the major challenges, though, with the drawings as well is just not only is there some limitation in, like personally, I think how far you can take the accuracy, but also there's not that much information in the public domain to train on in terms of
Mm.
drawings. So, for us, we've gone to lengths of like, actually creating like dummy drawings ourselves to use as training data as a way to like get around that. So yeah, you have to try and like come up with some creative ways unless you're one of the big consultants who have a lot of like old drawings to use.
Yeah, and Steven, I also like really resonate with that. Like sometimes the custom data set generation or getting access to the data set which is not public but in the hard drives and doing like code labeling like drives a lot of accuracy and maybe like fine tuning a model. I was wondering like maybe we can go back to the interview mode. How do you measure accuracy for a RAG app? Yeah, if you can share.
Yeah, it's really challenging. Like what we have is like a fallback message when we haven't been able to find information, which is something that we track, and then we like put that onto our dashboard that we review every week, like us as the founders. So we have a fallback message saying when we've not been able to find something. And quite often what we try and do is we try and figure out if that fallback message is happening because someone's actually asking for something that's not there. Like let's say they're asking for something related to like a document that's just not in the system? Or is it because the retrieval part is like failing somehow? So we've gone through a lot of rounds of improving that over about 2 years, just constantly refining that. And what we found is like the most important part is less to do with the RAG side of things. It's more to do with how you're reading data off and structuring it in such a way that your like similarity search or whatever process you're using is like picking that up in the overall structure. So there's some different techniques people have used, like knowledge graphs is one. There's some people who are doing interesting things with those, especially with IFC data. But there's also, yeah, I mean, for us, what we found is the part we've improved the most, that's resulted in the most improvement is more, okay, if someone's uploading a PDF, like how we're structuring that information, like how it's being structured back to headings, subheadings, and like information across several pages, and how it's all grouped into one section. We found that's the part that like gives you the most reward if you improve it.
Steven, what has been your most challenging moment of running a startup and most proud moment?
Okay, I think the hardest thing, yeah, I think there's like a cycle of like hard things to do in a startup. Number one is to build something that's actually useful. I think that's where like the most people find it the hardest, even if it's free, just building something that people will use and log in. That's the hardest thing. The second hardest thing is finding something that people use that they're willing to pay for, but it's not as hard as building something useful. And then the third hardest part is like building something that lots of people can use at the same time, that's scalable. So you can have like 1,000 people using it all at once. So for us, like, I mean, going from 0 to 1 is really hard in the construction industry because you get a lot of questions around who else is using this or how long have you guys been around for? And, you know, if you tell them you've only been going for like 3 months or something, it's quite a red flag, I think. So you have to find those don't mind that and they're just like the vision. So we got quite lucky in that we found a few of those people who we still speak with all the time now. So I think for most founders, that's like the hardest thing to do, to find that the people you resonate with at the beginning. And then I guess the biggest success is just still being here after like almost 3 years. You know, you have to appreciate that, and because it's not easy.
Yeah, I have like huge respect for founders. Like it's there's so many ups and downs and like to strive and survive. It's immense work. What would be your first customer or first couple of customer stories? How were you able to convince them to believe in your vision?
Yeah, so like right at the beginning, we launched quite a lot of free things. Like you could come onto Sybil's AI and we'd have like free calculators and free tools. And then we ended up having quite a few people who just really liked that we were giving things out for free. And then we were posting a lot of things on like Instagram and on YouTube just about the journey of like starting a company and about what we were trying to do. And then quite a few people when I was like messaging, like sometimes outreaching to them on LinkedIn, just like messaging people I thought were interesting. And I think some of them would like see this, what we've been doing and then decide like to have a call. That was the process. I think really it was a whole combination of things. We didn't really just focus on like one particular strategy. We were always testing different things. And I think in AEC, it's like I think if you give out enough for free, like sharing knowledge and information, people will like respond to that and want to speak with you or want to engage. That's what we've been really trying to do is try and like share as much as we can. So like sharing free training course for like 7 hours, 7 hours of training. Yeah, we initially charged for that, but then we decided we didn't want to anymore. We just wanted to give it away for free and like have more people using it. So yeah, I think that's the learning there.
And I must say, like, your like content playbook is amazing. Like even the YouTube tutorials, like I went through the code and it's to the point, and your explainer videos is, I haven't checked out the course, but I'll definitely check out the whole course. So totally like get the point of like value add to the community by providing solutions or things they are interested to build, and that builds a trust and relationship for the customers. So, like great job on creating high value content for the industry. And I was wondering, what are your experience and thoughts on open source versus closed source solution?
Yeah, sure. So I think if you're going to do a startup in the construction industry, I think that having some way of doing a closed source, an open source model is maybe better, just based on some of the things we've been finding around, especially what trying to work in Europe on some projects. There's a lot of concerns around data privacy, and a lot of every company wants data hosting in their own region, or at least in their own country, or at least in their own region. So it's one of the challenges for like early stage startups is it's very hard to do that. So I think there's a few other examples of really awesome open source software in the construction industry. But the challenge is, if you've spent a long time doing it, it's a very hard decision to make if you were to decide to open source everything you've been doing for the past 2 years. So if I was to do it all again, I would probably consider trying to do something open source. Um, as a way to manage that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have might have some bit controversial take. So I love the open source model, and what I felt like after calculating like damn the willingness to pay by our industry, open source with a VC route, it's it's a relatively like a tough journey to make a unicorn in AC with that. But like there's a good sustainable business model with open source plus hosted service as a business model. So like adoption wise, open source is great, but business model wise, I haven't seen much successful case studies in our industry.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I think it's like very attractive to look at and think that could solve all your lots of issues that you're facing, or lots of hesitation and dealing with IT teams. But like if you look at OpenAI at the moment, and then this DeepSeek project in
Yeah.
China, it's like you kind of know how much OpenAI are making, and they're doing very well. They're really successful. But then you're never quite sure with open source projects like, how well that they're actually doing and how stable things are on the like business side. So I think to look at it, it's you could have like rose tinted glasses.
Yeah. And over time, like what I've realized, there are lots of interesting problems to be solved in AEC, but there are like few which are good business model wise or sustainable revenue wise problems. There are a lot of pain points where people want it, but they like their willingness to pay is very low.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a really tough one because construction's so fragmented that to solve, for me when I was starting out, I solved what I thought was like a huge problem in construction, and it is for like my job role. But when you go and speak to, so I was like working on geotechnical engineering projects, doing that ground engineering. And then if I go and speak with people in BIM, or people who are doing like more like architecture or anything like this, then they have all sorts of other problems that are completely in a different world. So finding that big problem to solve is like extremely hard. So that's something that I kind of learn over time.
Steven, I'm curious to know your takes on AI agents or what are other interesting problems in AEC which AI can be leveraged.
I think it's so I think we're going to try and do some things with AI agents, but my honest feeling is I don't think they're quite there yet. And they're a bit temperamental in a lot of cases. So the concept with AI agents is that you're hooking up your like large language model with different tools and giving it the API information so it can send off some queries and do things in your software that you're using, like Google Calendar, for example. And I've been playing around with one or two of these AI agents, which you can build yourself, a bit like I've been testing out some other no code workflow software when we've been building our own. And one thing I find is that it can book, if I'm trying to send a message from like Telegram or WhatsApp to some AI agent and tell it I want to book a meeting and fill my calendar at like 6 p.m. today with a 30-minute meeting, it will book it in like 2026. and it
Mm,
gets it completely wrong. It'll get the year completely wrong, and you can kind of fix it, but it will still do unusual things. And yeah, my feeling with them is that maybe this year they'll be there, but like at this very moment in time, I think they're a little bit unstable in terms of the APIs and advanced tasks.
especially with construction where like one wrong thing could totally change the simulation or compliance. We need that human in the loop for sure.
But you see, it does work sometimes. You see, it works like 60% of the time or so. So I think it's really almost there to get the like Revit AI agent that really works.
Amazing. So for people watching or listening, how can they reach out to you for if they want to try your product, or what stage is the ideal stage for them to collaborate with you?
Yeah, sure. I think if you go onto like our website, www.civils.ai, and then have a look at the different workflow like library that we have there of the different tasks. We've got about 6 now. I'd say if there's something there with which like resonates with you that you find you spend a lot of time doing, drop me a message on LinkedIn or send us an email on the website, and then we can like explore it some more. But yeah, the concept is we're going to be adding more to those different workflows that are listed there and adding to that library. So hopefully if it's not something there now, maybe check again.
Anything which we didn't cover in this interview and you would like to share that message on a closing note?
I think it's just a really exciting time to be in the industry. There's a lot happening, a lot coming together all at once. And I think we're lucky to be like in this era because I think in our lifetime, as long as we can be open-minded to learn more about the new changes, the new options available, I think we can really achieve a lot with the new tools that are coming onto the market. So I think it's a great time to be in the industry.
Thanks a lot, Steven, for being on the show. Your product is amazing. Your online tutorials and courses are incredible. So it's an honor to host you.
Thanks so much, mate. Is there anything you want to like drop in as well?
In what regards?
I don't know, anything you wanted to also like, it's been too much about me. Is there anything? Yeah.
I'm like kind of super excited about the reg space because there are lots of innovations which are being currently done and which are yet to be developed to take it to the final mile. So can't wait to test Civil's AI and see like okay the retrieval and how you have figured out because it's super challenging problem, but like if you crack it, it's gonna save so much time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.